Lovely. So welcome everyone to this session on being a leader who coaches and thinking about how you can develop those skills. We're really excited to be with you today to start the conversation, to help you develop your thinking in this area, to really help you be the best leader that you can possibly be. I want to start by thanking everyone who donated to my social enterprise, Rocking Your Teens. That social enterprise is set up to support teenagers, to help them develop good skills in terms of making good choices, to help them develop skills in terms of really recognizing the career aspirations that they might have and realizing those career aspirations as well. So everyone who donated, your money will go towards events we hold. And we have our next event in November, which will be a conference, especially for boys. Boys from all over the UK will come together. We're going to celebrate International Men's Day, and we're going to help them gain the skills they need to be successful. So thank you so much. We also have girls events, and I know that Fiona has already put in the chat a link to Rocking Your Teens if you want to find out more about it. We're always looking for speakers, sponsors, event hosts. There's so much we're always seeking, and sponsorship. So if you are looking to support a worthy cause, then look no further. That would be a good one for you to support. So thank you for being here today. It's much appreciated. And as I said, it's all about thinking about developing those skills as a leader that you could potentially coach your staff and really take the way you lead to the next level. So a bit about me. My name is Jenny Garrett. I'm an award-winning career coach, author, and leadership trainer. My books explore the empowerment of working women and women in leadership roles. And together with my team, we use our years of experience in coaching and leadership to support women and those from ethnically diverse backgrounds to progress in the workplace, as well as supporting majority group leaders to make inclusion happen. So today, as I said, is all about how you can develop a coaching leadership style where you recognize your team members' strengths, weaknesses, and motivations, where you recognize what the advantages to this approach are and what the challenges to this approach might be. You're going to learn from this panel of executive coaches, all listed in the Diverse Executive Coach Directory. This directory has been set up to connect coaches from diverse backgrounds with corporate organizations so we can diversify our talent pools, so that people from diverse backgrounds can have a choice of coach, and so can everyone, but also so we can influence at senior levels. If we're really looking to make sure our organizations are more inclusive, then we need inclusion at every level, including the suppliers that we have. And everyone in the Diverse Executive Coach Directory has been fully vetted. They've had references. We make sure they have insurance. Qualifications have been checked. And so you can be rest assured that they are top quality coaches, the best this country has to offer. So when we're thinking about coaching, I just wanted to be really clear about what we mean here, because there are so many different forms of helping. For me, coaching is about helping to unlock potential, and it's about helping someone to come up with their own answers. So it's not about telling them, it's not about giving them the benefit of your knowledge and being a wise sage. For me, that's much more about mentoring. Mentoring is someone who's walked in your shoes, someone who has knowledge and expertise, someone whose path you might want to follow. And that's what a mentor does. And then there's being a manager. And I think managers, they get work done through people. They delegate, they assign tasks, they deal with emergencies, they hold you to account to make sure you achieve your objectives. So quite different. Very non-directive coaching is helping you to come up with your own answers, helping you to think things through, helping to unlock your potential. Mentoring, this wise sage, giving you advice to help you along your way from their experience. And then the manager, who has much more rigid tasks and delegation and help and advice that they can give very much specified to the job. But that doesn't mean that we can't bring some of these roles together at different times to really help make the difference with our colleagues, help improve them and help develop them as well. So during this session, experienced coaches, Janice, Geeta and Lisa, all listed in the coaching directory that I mentioned, are going to share with you this topic, leaders as coaches, what they've noticed, the benefit of their experience, and also some top tips for you. Actually, Fiona, can you confirm the hashtag for this event and put it in the chat? That would be really, really good, because I don't want to give the wrong hashtag. And Fiona will also share some of the handles for everyone here as well. But do feel free to tweet. We're always happy for you to tweet what we're saying, any highlights, or what you thought about the event as well. So I'm going to start with a poll, really like starting with a poll and getting your insight into this topic. We co-create our conversation together today. Part of it is us and part of it is yourselves. So I'm going to launch the poll. And first of all, really want to know who you are. Are you new to coaching? Have you been coaching for a while? Are you looking to brush up on your skills? And also, are you currently using coaching and it's going well? Or are you using it and you need some support? Or you haven't started using coaching? So let us know how you are on this area. Thank you so much. Looking to get at least 3/4 of you to have completed the poll before we close it. It's great to see it in motion. So 62% of you have completed the poll so far. See if we can get a few more before we close it. Nearly at 80%, that's where I like to stop. Okay, I'm going to close the poll now. Thank you for everyone who has been able to contribute to it. That's amazing. And hopefully you can see the results. Fingers crossed they're showing on your screen. So 41% of you are new to coaching and 41% of you are also looking to brush up on your skills. So, and then there's a small group in the middle who've been coaching for a while. Okay, so lovely. So new to coaching and brushing up of your skills is the majority. And then we have 41% of you have not started using coaching. And I guess that's because you're new to coaching. And then 32% are using it and it's going well. And 27% are using it, but they need a bit of support. So you're in absolutely the right place. We will definitely help you and help you feel a bit more equipped as we go through the session today, but feel more equipped, but also think about where you find out more as well, because this is a starting point, I would say, definitely not the end point. All of the coaches here, we're always continuing to learn, to grow, to develop. Yeah, this is an ongoing journey in terms of developing your coaching skills. So I'm going to ask our coaches to introduce themselves, and I'll start with you, Janice.
Hello, everyone. I'm delighted to be here. My name's Janice Taylor, and I'm a career coach and writer, and I'm based down in Brighton by the sea. I work with a range of clients as people explore their options and take steps towards making the changes they want. I guess people tend to find me when they're feeling a bit lost and a bit directionless in terms of their careers. I'm really looking forward to this discussion today because I'm fascinated by leadership, by the whole question of leadership and what it means for people's careers. So that's me.
Lovely, thank you. And Geeta?
Thank you, Jenny. I'm Geeta Ramachandran. I'm based in London. I'm a leadership coach and an executive coach. I work with leaders who are new to their leadership positions and also those who are experienced and in senior executive positions along with their teams. I have a background in as an agile practitioner and in change management. In my previous life, I think I also have an engineering degree, so it helps me bring that analytical angle to the people work that I do, which I quite enjoy. I'm humbled and grateful to have received a few awards, like a Make a Difference Award from Acumen Commercial Insights and a Woman of the Year Award from the Telegraph. And it shows me that coaching has value, and particularly so given the topic today, it would be interesting to explore why a leader can shine by adopting their coaching style. So I look forward to it.
Thank you so much. And last but definitely not least, Lisa.
Hello everyone, pleased to be here today. I'm Lisa Leonce and I'm an executive career and leadership coach. I'm also a host, speaker, trainer and consultant. My clients tend to be those in executive and senior positions, but also those that are transitioning into a leadership role, helping them through that transition process and settling into their new role. I work with mainly everyone in terms of sectors, different sectors. That could be business, banking and finance, the armed forces, law enforcement, healthcare, information technology, education, charity and volunteering sector. So a wide range of individuals. And I've been doing this independently for about 15 years now.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. You can see they bring a wealth of experience. So how it's going to run today is I'm going to ask our coaches a few questions to get their insights, and then I'm going to open it up to you to ask them questions. But feel free to type questions as we go through, and we'll keep an eye on the chat, and also any insights or thoughts you have or any resources you have. So if we make this a two-way process and get the conversation going, I think that's a really great thing to do. So thank you. So my first question to our coaches is, what are the benefits of being a leader that coaches? And also, why is now the time for leaders who coach, do you think? And I'm going to start with you, Janice.
Thank you, Jenny. Well, I think it makes good business sense. I found an article in HR Grapevine, and I've quoted, organisations of senior leaders who coach effectively improve their business results by 21%. So it makes good business sense. But I also think the now is we're operating in a world with greater uncertainty, volatility, I think, and complexity. And I think people need to develop skills to, thinking skills, taking initiative and decision-making skills, assessing risk. I think people need to be developing these skills, and I see coaching as one way to do that. So that would be my response.
Yeah, that's a really good point, isn't it? There's not necessarily a straightforward pathway, easy answers out there. We need to develop critical thinking skills and ways to navigate our challenges. And it's not just about someone saying, this is what you do. And coaching can really help people, come up with their own solutions and find their way through. So thank you, Janice. What are your thoughts, Lisa?
Yeah, I echo what Janice has just said there in terms of coaches. The whole point there is about a coach helping an individual realise and achieve their goals much faster than they would on their own. That's what we're all about. And if a leader can do that as well as establish drive and vision, then they're going to create a powerful team. It's not the norm these days. Well, it is the norm these days, I should say, that we've got this rapid change that's disruptive, I guess, around the world. We've had the COVID-19 pandemic, we've got wars, we've got injustice, climate change, and all these communication and technology developments, which change and affect companies and businesses and individuals, the way we work. So having to cope with all those changes and getting your team to be able to deal with those transition is a great benefit. Using coaching means that you don't have to have all the answers for yourself. You can utilize your team to empower them to come up with solutions together and for themselves as well. It's impossible to have all the answers in this rapid changing world, and using your team, using coaching as a tool will actually help you with that. So that's a great benefit there. It also, coaching benefits because it's part of developing your team. It facilitates development for your team. You help that person develop different skill sets in terms of thinking and also become more resilient, which is great for a team member to be. And it then builds that trust as well, that investment, that you're invested in me, you value me, you see me, and you're utilizing what I have to offer and working with what I have right now, which also helps with staff retention and reduces turnover. So investing in your people. So coaching offers so many different benefits.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. A really comprehensive answer. Is there any more you can add to this question, Geeta?
Yeah. Thank you, Jenny. In fact, Janice and Lisa, some great points there. I'd like to add perhaps a certain nuance to what you've said, basically. Firstly, like Janice said, the world we live in is quite complex, and you might have heard the VUCA term: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And gone are the days when a leader comes from a mindset of, oh, I need to know all the answers. It's more a case of, oh, what questions do I ask to help me and the others understand it? Which means that to deal with this complexity, a leader needs to go over and beyond their personal experience and their brilliance, and to tap on the collective intelligence that they have in the room. I think that's the reason for that being the complexity and the benefit of doing this, to be the tapping the collective intelligence that they have. And there is one other benefit to doing it, like in the time and space we are in now, which is to scale leadership. I think as we go on to, it's like, sustainability is not only in our environment but also amongst our people and our organizations. And the only way in which you can scale leadership is, like Jenny said, you're unlocking potential when you adopt that coaching style and you're focusing on that long-term growth of the person. So doing that means that you can also scale leadership as you go along. So for me, that is the reason why we do it, why it's important now, and what the benefit it offers.
Thank you. All so many really great points. And when we were thinking about this event, I saw some research, and it was saying that millennials will be expecting to be coached. That's the approach they'll be expecting. So when we're thinking about this intergenerational workforce that we have now, which are, people are not going to retire, they're going to stay at work forever because they're not going to be able to get a pension until really late in life. And also people enjoy working and get a lot of joy from it. To the young people coming in, either school leavers or graduates, that's, that intergenerational range that we have in the workplace. It's important to always be thinking, what do the young people who are coming through really want from you? And I think coaching is something that they are specifying that they want. And the other thing I would say as well, we've just come through COVID. It's been a really tough time for everyone. I don't know if we're completely out of the woods yet, but I think the idea of compassion and care and emotion, I think about them much more as leadership skills than I ever thought of before. And I think we saw that we needed to be compassionate and caring. We needed to think about the mental well-being of our colleagues during that time. And I think coaching lends itself to being able to tap into not just what tasks you need to do, but actually how are you feeling and what's going on for you emotionally. And that to be brought into the workplace as being just as important as getting those tasks done. So I think that's an additional dimension. So thank you so much for answering those questions. As I said, those in the audience, do feel free to type your insights. You might have thoughts on answers to these questions as well, or questions that you might have. So my second question to the group is, what are the skills or qualities that leaders need to develop to take a coaching approach? And also, how can they develop them? And I'm going to start with you, Geeta, this time.
Sure. Thank you, Jenny. I'm reminded many years ago, it used to be said in recruitment, you can teach skills, but you cannot teach attitude or mindset. But then over the last decade, I've been exploring this aspect of changing mindsets a bit deeper. And your question for me shows these two angles. One is the mindset or attitude or qualities, and the other is the skills. As a leader, I think the attitude and the mindset or the qualities which would serve well in this space is first to have an interest in people, a genuine curiosity, as to what else could be. And that sense of pride that you see when your team and you collectively, when you win together. So those are the kind of qualities I see in leaders who have really tapped this to the fullest. And in terms of skills, there is a certain power in questions. And like I was saying before, it's not a leader needing to know all the answers, but needing to know what questions to ask. And there is a huge sort of field you can look into as to what's complicated, complex, and what kind of questions to ask. But it's the power of questions, I would say, is the main skill to grow in that area.
Yeah, there's a whole field called clean language, isn't there? Which might be something that the audience might be interested in tapping into, sort of asking clean questions, which are normally not very long and don't lead people anywhere, but allow them to think about what their responses are. So thank you so much, Geeta. I'll go to Lisa.
Hi, yeah, so my sets would be listening, questioning and drawing insight. As Geeta said, the questioning is really important, but the listening and the drawing insight is equally as well, because that communication skill is vital. The listening, to not listen to what you think they've said, but listening to also what is not being said, because just as much as what they are telling you, there's lots of what they're not telling you. And we're still, unfortunately, in this world, in that culture where people hide mistakes and they hide their current limitations and they cover them up wearing masks and having this, false sense of being. And that can be just as important to work out what is not being said as well as what is being said. So the art of listening and speaking is really important. A couple of other fundamental things, I think, is risk management and emotional intelligence. And risk management in regards to weighing up the cost of the time, cost and quality, I always do the TQA, of leading staff. So there'll be situations where you can afford to invest and coach in your employees at that time. And there'll be other times where certain projects where actually you just need to make a decision, you need to tell them what to do, and that's what's needed, and that's absolutely right. There's different approaches for different things, and it's having that assessment, that risk assessment. How can I do this? Is it actually essential, or is it something that I can do? And I find that if you use that situational leadership by Ken Blanchard, you can refer to that book. He's got a guide in there that really helps of leaders knowing when to coach and when it can actually help. And it doesn't have to be that long 1 or 2, 3 hour session. It can just be that spot on there. And like I said, again, dealing with emotional intelligence, that dealing with emotions is something that quite a few leaders struggle with. Just want you to get on with your job. You're here to work, do your work, but actually you have to take in consideration the whole self, because we are people and we are full of emotions, and we can't just leave that when we come into the workspace. So being aware of your employees' emotional state, and also the effect that you're having on your employees on their emotional state, is really something that's a skill to have. So I think those are the main things. In terms of how you can get help, because that was the other part to your question, get a coach. Get a coach. As you know, a coach will help you reach your goals faster. Get a coach. I can also recommend this directory, so you can get a coach, but get a coach that works for you. That will help you. Also, there's lots of researches, and do your research and go on courses. There's so many different things out there. There's books, there's resources, and I'm sure we'll be sharing some of those with you later. But another thing I think is really key is to do your personal profile of yourself. If you understand yourself and how you operate and how you impact on other people, there's various ones out there that you can do for free, and there's other ones you can pay for. That's really good to start with you. And also you can get feedback from others as well on how you're doing in regards to your coaching. There's 180 feedbacks and 360 feedbacks and reviews and things. And that sort of feedback will really help you in developing those skill sets and keeping you on track.
Great. Again, yeah, lots there. I think a point you tapped into, which I think is very pertinent for now, is this idea of helping your colleagues to be their most authentic self, and how coaching can really help. We know that organizations that are inclusive and foster belonging are the ones that are going to remain competitive and be sustainable. So if you have any challenges in your organization around inclusion and belonging, maybe you have a high attrition rate for certain groups of people, you might be thinking, well, actually, maybe managers and leaders adapting a more coaching approach could really help with that, because they'll get to know their staff better as individuals. They'll understand their development needs. They'll create psychological safety, because you have to feel safe in a coaching relationship. And all of that fosters safe belonging, it fosters inclusion, and it helps to appreciate people for exactly who they are, rather than making them assimilate and be like anything else that they don't want to be. So I think that's a key point that and really fits with the world we're living in right now. So thank you for bringing that to the table. And Janice.
Yeah, I've got a little bit to add, but that's very comprehensive answers there, actually. But yeah, I'd just like to go on talk about the self-awareness, actually. We talked about emotional intelligence, but perhaps being self-aware and understanding how you're questioning. Are you asking enough questions? What type of questions are you asking your members of staff? And are they opening up conversations, or are they shutting people down a little bit? So having that level of self-awareness, I think, is a helpful thing. I also think, as Geeta was saying, having that deep level of curiosity and interest in people and the people that you're working with, I think that's highly important. And being open to learning, learning about yourself, because I always remember a brilliant piece of feedback I got from a member of staff when they said, when we give you bad news, Janice, we don't know what's going on because you're not saying anything, and we worry about bringing bad news to you. And that, I had no idea I was making faces while I was busy internally trying to solve the problem. So it was that, it can be, being open to learning, I think, can be a massive one, actually, for leaders. So yeah. And I recognizing that you're not in this world, you're not going to have all the answers, I think, which is the point we've all made, I think, earlier.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more on all of that. And yeah, thanks for adding those points and just bringing it to life from your own experience as well. Do you have a poker face or not, and how that impacts things? But the feedback piece, knowing that coaching is much more two-way, and a difference in the balance of your relationship, isn't it, than maybe that manager staff relationship, because it's less around I tell you what to do and much we're going to come up with meaning and answers together. And I hear you alluding to that, and for people to think about how they would feel behaving in that way as well. So we've got a lovely point that's been made here that I just want to bring up from Joanne, which is there's a need to use listening and patience in negotiating the pathways available that will help reward and develop skills best with team members. Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt that we agree with you. And I think that leads very much into our next question, which is what are the challenges for leaders who want to develop a coaching approach, and how can they overcome them? Because the point that's being made, that there are things you need to develop, and there could be a lot of challenges around those things. So I'm going to start this time with Lisa. What are your thoughts on that? What are the challenges for leaders who want to develop a coaching approach, and how can they overcome them?
Yeah, so I think the biggest challenges are self-control and patience. It's being tempted, that you get that temptation when you're helping someone to want to give them the answer, to give them the solution so that you can, move on. But it's at stepping back and having that self-control and patience to just continue questioning and getting them to find the answers for themselves. And that's the art of coaching, and that's the difficulty in the leadership role. I suppose we're used to doing and getting things done, and we want things done, and we want it done efficiently. And so the most efficient way is to just tell the answer so we can get on. But coaching is take a step back and take that self-control, and also pacing, which falls underneath that, working at the right pay for that individual, depending on what you are. I know that I had a leader who was a DI, which is dominance and influence, if you use the DISC profile analysis. And for those type of leaders, they maintain a fast pace generally, and they get impatient with little things that stand in their way of progress, whatever that could be. So just being aware of that and knowing, well, actually, I need to maybe step back, or this person might learn differently, or might need more time to process and think about what's happening rather than just respond there on the spot, is all part of that self-control and patience in terms of the challenges of coaching. Again, if you're that type of leader, you might be not used to asking and listening, which has been mentioned so many times before. But coaching is about asking and listening, not telling and selling, for example. You know, again, normally before, you know, you've approached your team or whoever you're with, you've come up with a solution, you know what the solution is going to be, and you're just trying to get them to come around to your way of thinking. That's not coaching. Coaching is actually questioning, asking, listening, and then coming up with something together, not convincing them of your way of thinking, or what you've already got the answers already. And those are the challenges of just stepping back, self-control, pacing, patience, asking and listening. And it sounds simple, but it's not always that simple.
Thank you so much. And one of the joys is that you can have a predefined answer, can't you? You can think, oh, I'm going to coach them to get to the point where I'm at in terms of the way forward, which is not coaching. But actually, if you just ask an open question, sometimes they come up with something better or more creative or totally different than you could have thought of yourself. And it's that recognition that you don't know it all and that there isn't only one way. So thanks so much, Lisa.
Yes.
Completely agree with you.
Sorry, the second part of that is how you can overcome those. And I think that's the same to what we answered before in terms of, you know, getting a coach, doing some research, going on courses and doing that personality profile, leadership profiles, and understanding yourself. And getting feedback. So in terms of how you can overcome those challenges, I think it's very similar in terms of how you develop those skill sets.
Yeah, and a very, very practical little tip. When I first started coaching, I always wanted to bombard people with questions. So questions weren't my problem. I was very curious, but I'd ask a question and then ask another question, and the person hadn't had time to process the first one or even, you know, think about responding. So what I started doing was always bringing a drink into my coaching with me. And so I'd ask a question and then take a sip to train myself not to completely, you know, not to fill silences and not to immediately ask another question, and then became much more patient and open to hearing. So even something as small as that can be really, really helpful in just starting to have, exactly as you said, a bit of self-control, a bit of patience in the way that you coach. So thank you. Lovely. I'll go to Keaton. No, Janice next, I think. Janice.
Just building again on what Lisa was saying, patience, I think, is a big one for me. You know, it is easier, I think, as Lisa was saying, to kind of just offer an answer or tell someone what to do. And so developing that, I think having the patience to take a step back and allow someone the space to hear themselves think, I think is a big one, actually. But I also think sometimes people are spending, it's who people are choosing to coach and spend that time with. So, you know, a challenge might be that people are coaching in their own image, actually, and not necessarily coaching a wider range of people as they could be, and not letting their expertise and knowledge available to people. So that would be another one for me, actually. You know, are you coaching in your own image? And is your coaching available to everyone that needs it, really?
Fantastic points, which I'm sure many people don't think about that. So it's a really helpful sort of look in the mirror and think about who you're supporting. Thank you. And Geeta.
Thank you. I'd like to sort of pick off a point that Lisa mentioned earlier about this 360 profile. For me, challenges that a leader could face in adopting this coaching style could come from 3 areas. One is the point that Lisa mentioned about know yourself and that personal profile. Personally, as a coach, I use a tool called the Leadership Circle. And the Leadership Circle describes, it has like 18 creative tendencies a leader could exhibit. in ways they can shine as a leader. And then there are 11 reactive tendencies. And when we say 11 reactive tendencies, we refer to reactive as a place that we go to feel safe. For example, a summary sort of a dimension could be controlling, or it could be complying with the others, or it could be protecting. And so if a leader were to approach this coaching style from a place of fear, or from a place, sometimes the fear could be as human as, oh, if I coach somebody else, would they become better than me? Would they become bigger than me? Or what are you trying to protect? What are you trying to control? What are you trying to comply with? So these are some questions you can ask yourself as a leader, and to look at it instead from a creative mindset rather than a reactive mindset. So that's one trap. A second trap could be your own misconceptions as to what a coaching style could mean. Like, for example, like Jenny and Janice and Lisa were saying, it's the tapping that potential, and to understand what this coaching style, directive versus non-directive, and to understand truly what the style can tap is a good thing. And third, I'm reminded of a leader I worked with who genuinely wanted to adopt a coaching style. He even went on a course for a boss as a coach kind of program. And then in the moment, in his experience with his team, he was really pulling his hair out. And he said, this is really hard, Geeta, because as a leader, where you are in that organization with your team and responsible for those outcomes and outputs that your team and you have to provide, you are in it. And in the coaching world, we refer to it as a subject versus object. So when you're within the subject, it's really hard to put it in front of you and to act in that coach's stance where you can look at it as an object and let the answer emerge. That is really, really hard. And to do it and to know how hard it is, and then to work with a coach and to get yourself better, I think that is what will help you from that inside out perspective to shine, to really do this well.
Fabulous, fabulous. I think there are many challenges, aren't there? And I think a lot of people go up the ranks in their own organization because they're an expert at something. You know, you could be an expert marketer, you could be an expert project manager, you know, whatever you could be an expert in IT, for example. And then you become a leader, and you're being asked to kind of let go of that expertise to lead and manage other people. And it can be a very uncomfortable situation because you're letting go of everything you know and everything that got you where you are in order now to be an expert manager, which is not something you are. So that idea of taking a coaching approach takes the pressure off you. You don't need to know it all. What you need to do is help get all of the answers and all of the right ways out for those in your team so that they can develop and be the best they can be. So it can be, although that's a challenge, it's also an opportunity for you. Again, really useful for you to recognize that these challenges exist. If your organization has a telling culture, let's tell people what to do, and you are trying to create a coaching culture, there can also be a bit of a clash. And there might be a lot of work you need to do to influence around culture before you can start coaching. Or you can have this pocket of coaching that goes on that then can impact the rest of the organization. So there are challenges, but also opportunities at every road. And I just want to tap into Joanne's point. To get a buy-in and cooperation towards developing an action plan, get the right venue and give it enough time in the diary so you can ask and wait without filling the pauses too quickly. Yeah, so being really specific there, Joanne, which is really helpful, is, you know, what is the environment around you like? Am I coaching you in my office where I'm your boss, so you immediately feel that power balance? Am I coaching you in my office so that people keep knocking on the door and interrupting? Are we really having a coaching conversation? So the environment matters, and how safe someone feels in the environment as well, but also it not being a rush. Although I'm an advocate of small coaching interventions. You know, you meet someone by the water cooler, you just ask them a question that really helps them, or you give them that bit of feedback that sort of unlocks something in them that helps them recognize something about themselves. because not all managers have an hour to give everyone for coaching. So some of the time it is the smaller coaching interventions that can be just as powerful. So I'm coming on to our final question. I would really like it if there are any questions from you. So please feel free to type them in the chat so we can come to those as soon as I've asked this final question. So my question to all of you is, what resources would you recommend for those who want to learn more about being a leader who coaches? And hopefully you've all got something. So I'll start with you, Geeta.
Sure. I've just posted a link to a HBR article on Leader as a Coach. And that's quite an interesting read if you are a leader and you would like to explore this coaching style. I would say as a resource, listen to other leaders, podcasts. It depends on what style you learn best in. For some, it could be reading. For some, it could be listening or watching a video. So look at varied sources. We have such a rich availability of podcasts and videos these days on social media. So, and listen to coaches who speak, because if you're wanting to adopt a coaching style as a leader, it would be interesting for you to listen to some of the coaches and see how they're thinking, how they're approaching their space. And this could be a cue also for you.
Wonderful. I'll go next to Janice.
I also found a couple of HBR articles. One was The Surprising Power of Questions, and I would highly recommend that, actually, just to look at how you can, the sort of questions you can frame and how you can frame them. And the other one was Good Leadership is About Asking Good Questions. I just love that, very simple, to the point. You know, you ask good questions, you get better answers. So that would be that's mine.
Fantastic. And Lisa?
As I said before, get yourself a coach. We can recommend anyone in the coaching directory here. That would be good. There's so many resources out there, as the Geeta and Janice have said. Have a look and get some resources. One of the books I'd recommend is that Leadership and the 1 Minute Manager, Increasing Effectiveness Through Situational Leadership. And again, that's by Ken Blanchard. It came out recently. So, well, not that recently, but that's an update to his situational leadership book that he previously wrote. But I'd recommend reading that one as well.
Fantastic. And I recommend a couple of books as well. There's Julie Starr writes a lot for leaders who coach. So any of her books, and I think Starr is double R, Julie Starr, and also The Solutions Focused by Paul Z. Jackson is a really good book for just small interventions that can positively coach your staff as well. So it moves away, you can do the whole hour session, or you can use these small interventions, which can be really good as well. So thank you so much. I'm just having a look. Does it look like we haven't got any questions? Which is really interesting. We're normally bombarded with questions. That's unusual that we haven't got any today. So what I've got a question for the audience, for you panelists then, if we haven't got any coming up. So I'm a leader. I've been trying to delegate, and every time I delegate, the day that the deadline comes, I find myself getting back the same job that I delegated. I delegated it, it comes back to me unfinished. Then I have to spend all night finishing this task that wasn't done, that I gave to someone 2 weeks ago. Any tips on coaching interventions that could help with this? Putting you on the spot, I know, but you're all experienced coaches. Any thoughts? Maybe the question that you might ask, or yeah, how you might go about it.
I might start with saying, just talking, I've noticed that this task keeps coming back. What's going on? I might keep it as open as that, actually. What's happening here? And try and dig down into, if I've got the time, try and dig down into what's happening for that individual in relation to that task.
Fantastic. Yeah. And nice and open. What's going on here? I'm not telling you what's going on. I'm not trying to lead you in any direction. And I'm not telling you off either. I'm just, very judgment-free question. Any other thoughts, Geeta and Lisa?
If a task keeps coming back, sometimes it's like Janice said, what's happening here, just that curiosity to see what's happening. It could either be a case that the person is not genuinely interested in that, and then the number of possibilities are endless. So to just hold that curiosity and see, is it a skill problem? Is it an interest problem? Is it a confidence problem? It could be any of those. But then the easiest one would be, of course, to just simply go in and try to do it yourself. But then it's like you're giving them the fish, but not teaching them to fish, kind of a situation. So to just stay curious and to ask that person, to let them take accountability and responsibility of exploring what's happening there.
Wonderful, thank you. I did see you wanted to add something earlier, Lisa. Has it all been said now?
Yeah, most of it's been said. It's just, like you said, it's finding out what's going on behind that. Do they have the resources that they need, the authority that they need, the access that they need, the resources, the time, and just working out that up front, and so that you've established going forward a way of working so that the task can be done.
Yeah, fantastic, really, really good. And so I'm going to ask you one more question. So what about a leader who finds themselves always having to have all of the answers? So people come to you as the expert with the answers all the time, a very dependent staff on you to solve everything. Are there questions or ways of being that could help me move out of being that, me, that if I was the leader, that person, oh, my door's always knocking, people are always coming in, they're always asking me questions, I'm the font of all knowledge, and I want to move away from being that. What's your thought on a coaching question or way of being that could help?
So I can make a start on that one. Some of you might have heard of the Cynefin framework. It's spelled as CYNEFIN, and that looks at situations in a 5-domain kind of a thing. One is a simple and obvious, and second is that complicated space where you are an expert, and then it's, and then you have the complex, and then you have chaos, and then the 5th domain is I do not know. So in this particular situation that you describe, where a leader feels it's like the expert trap, it's almost like people are coming and depending on me to ask. So a good approach for that is sometimes silence. When they ask a question, stay silent and let them keep talking. And often when people come to ask you a question and then you give them silence, then they try to fill it themselves, and then they start exploring their own thoughts. That could be a trigger for them to uncover what they innately know.
Brilliant, I love that. I haven't heard of that framework before, so thank you. I've learned something new today as well. Lisa, Janice, do you want to add anything to that?
I was just going to say, I think I love silence, actually. I think it can be an amazing enabler. I really do. So I love that, Geeta. And the only thing I was wondering is just to be curious about yourself and where this need is coming from, perhaps, actually, and when might it have started, and how is it benefiting you to be seen as the expert? And if you were to flip that, how might it benefit for you not to be the expert? So just maybe to ask yourself those sort of questions, probably with a coach. I think that might, depending on how long this has been going on, that might be something you might want to dig into with a coach.
Lovely, thank you. Lisa?
Well, I think the other two have covered everything, to be honest, both angles. So yeah, nothing more to add.
Lovely, lovely. I like also the idea of just asking someone, what do you think? When people come and ask you, what do you think we should do? How do you think we could do it? Because I think there's a way of helping people to come up with the answers before they even get to you. They probably have a suspicion of what you might say already, if they've been working with you for a long time. So if you kind of throw it back to people, how do you think we should go about it? They know to do some of the thinking before they even come to your office as well. So I think training people to ask themselves questions is a really good approach as well. There's a question, lovely. And also Joanne was sort of sharing her tips on great delegation as well. So thank you for those tips, Joanne. We'll make this probably the last question from Callista. What is the panel's advice on managing an expert in an area where you do not have the expertise? Really good one, really good question, because that people often feel very uncomfortable with that. So I'll repeat it. What is the panel's advice on managing an expert in an area where you do not have the expertise?
Shall I go first?
Right,
so again, it's that authenticity and building up that trust and relationship. So actually just being open and honest with them. You're not expected to have all the answers and not knowing all the answers. If you want to be that person, then that will affect your relationship with that person, because they will have more knowledge in that expertise area than you will. So actually accepting the position, but also being open with them about that and having the conversations. I rely on you because this is your area of expertise. People love to be complimented, and that will actually help them actually speak more. And actually not having the expertise, you have the authority to ask the silly questions, as you might put it, and ask all those questions and actually get them to start thinking about why they've come up with this solution or the way forward or whatever it is, because they may have missed something because they're so engrossed in what they know should be happening, and may have missed something that you come from another angle looking at it. So yeah, don't be afraid of not knowing everything and not being the expert. Embrace it and use it to build relationship and to ask those questions that other people may not have asked.
Wonderful. That was pretty comprehensive, but does anyone else have anything to add? You don't have to. Oh, yeah.
I'm curious, I'm not sure about time. I'm curious about the words managing the expert. And sometimes the curiosity question here is, what are we trying to manage here? For example, if it's managing the person, that's one thing. There is another aspect of management, which is managing the area of intelligence that's emerging, or managing the mission that we are trying to create together, or managing the product that you're trying to build. So when you're trying to manage a person, then you might feel that sense of nervousness and apprehension, because it's an area, it's a human reaction, right? You're trying to manage a person who seems to know more than you in that area. Whereas if you were to take your attention away from managing the person and instead focus more on the task at hand, the mission at hand, the product at hand, then you'll see that you come at it from a completely different angle.
Lovely. Thank you so much for that insight, Geeta. Really, really helpful. So my final question to you all is, what's the big coaching question that anyone who wants to become a leader that coaches should be asking themselves? And I will start with Janice.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, if you're going to move forward with this, what first step will you commit to taking? That's it, nice and simple.
Fantastic. Geeta?
I would like to suggest that you reflect on what takeaways that you have from this session to capture that.
Brilliant. And Lisa?
Mine would be to find out what are your work on areas and how does it affect your leadership.
Amazing, amazing. So hopefully you've received lots of food for thought there. You know, there's so much you can do to really think about the leader that you want to be, and how coaching fits into that. And there are lots of resources out there, including resources from the CIPD, many books, Harvard Business Review articles, but there is no substitute for practice. And just as has been said before today, asking more open questions, you know, let's start with why, well, less why actually, how, when, what, who, you know, is a really good place to start, and listening and allowing silence in your conversations. You know, just starting with that is a really good place for those of you who said you need a starting point. And the fundamental coaching model for anyone who hasn't coached before is the GROW model. So if you just Googled GROW model, that would be, again, a really good starting point to give you a framework for the kinds of conversations that you might want to have although there are many frameworks out there.
Jenny, there's one more question in the chat which Fiona's wondering.
Okay, we've only got 2 minutes. Okay. Okay, so we might have to type the answer because I'm not sure we're going to have time. What advice would you give to maintain a non-judgmental perspective to someone who's clearly acting in a self-serving way? They've been very direct and are now choosing non-interaction, but they still need to be managed. Is there a way you can coach them to bring them out of this space? So yeah, someone's acting in a self-serving way, and you want to coach them to not behave in that way. They also seem to be opting out as well.
Yeah, it's quite a tough one. Oh, sorry, Jenny. Didn't mean to.
No, go.
So it's a tough one for sure. Sometimes it helps to reflect two things. One is it's helpful for us when we see that sort of behavior emerge, to be careful and not villainize the person, firstly, because the minute we do that, then our brain goes off in that kind of a direction. And second, to reflect on what is the pain point that that person might be facing, and try to let that learning for them emerge, let them see what good behavior looks like through that perspective, because the only way in which they might listen to what you say and to be able to coach them is to help them see through their own pain points, find that coaching moment where when they are feeling pain in their own pain point, bring in a realization about what your observation is of them and help them to recognize what they're doing incorrectly.
Thank you so much. And I would add also that sometimes if you need a performance management conversation before, then followed by a coaching conversation. So, you know, if someone's not interacting and opting out, perhaps there is a conversation about what's acceptable, and then we coach beyond that. So completely agreeing with points that have been made, just adding that into the mix. I want to thank you so much for your time and your interaction today. I hope you found it a really useful session. To find out more about the work I do, go to jennygarrett.global to find out more about the coaching directory. Hopefully Fiona will put the link there because I never remember what it is, but do get in touch with our amazing coaches, Janice, Geeta and Lisa. They have been really fabulous and they are absolutely great coaches who I would highly recommend. And our next event is on the 28th of July and it's called Are You the Concrete Ceiling or the Hand Up? The role of line managers in maximising the potential of their ethnically diverse staff. So do sign up for that. We'd really love to see you there and we hope you find it useful. Thanks for your lovely comments. I'm glad you found it food for thought. And I hope it may have reaffirmed what you knew. It may have given you some new thoughts and tips, but hopefully encouraged and empowered those of you who are starting on the journey to continue on it. So thanks so much, Janice, Lisa and Geeta, and thank you so much, Fiona. Oh, my video's gone off. Yeah. Has it been off a long time?
Not that long.
Okay. And
thank you. Minutes, yeah.
Okay, and thank you so much, Fiona, who's been managing the chat today and managing all of your questions. We really appreciate her as well. So thank you, everyone. Do take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.